The following live-streamed program is made possible by Atlanta Video Network, making your streams come true. It's time once again for another edition of Talk to Me. And now, here's Emmy himself, 8-time Emmy Award-winning journalist, Maynard Eaton.
Hello again, my friends, and welcome to our weekly edition of Talk to Me, our weekly conversations with business leaders, cultural leaders, political leaders. But this week, we have an international civil and human rights leader. His name is Dr. Joseph Beasley. Dr. Beasley, what a treat to have you here, sir.
Well, I'm always delighted to talk to you, Maynard.
Dr. Beasley, we begin this on a sad note, though. You told me that your brother has fallen victim to COVID-19 today. My condolences, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I had to call around 1 a.m. this morning from my people in Cincinnati, letting me know that my brother had succumbed to the COVID-19.
Many black folks are. Is that troubling you? I mean, that's something I know you know what's going on around us. It's hurting black folks desperately, is it not? Disproportionately.
I just think quite disproportionately, and which points out how fragile our health conditions are. And of course, this is brought on due to the fact that so many of us as African Americans are poor. We've got pre-existing conditions because we don't have the insurance and so forth to have appointments so that we could be proactive with our health. And so it points out again the fact that African Americans and when I look at Brazil, as you know, I'm there a lot. It's ravaging Brazil, and of course, most African Brazilians are poorer than we are as African Americans, so it's devastating in Brazil.
Dr. Beasley, you emerged as the dean of the civil and human rights in America, if not the country now. At 84 years old, there's probably nobody with more experience and more influence and more respect than you have. How did you arrive to this point? I mean, you're known around the world. What is it about Joe Beasley that gets such respect in Africa, Brazil, as you mentioned, and here in the States?
Well, man, I always remember where I came from. I was born about 35 miles south of here on a plantation as the son of a sharecropper. And under those conditions, I learned early on that black lives really at that time certainly didn't matter.
But now
and
again,
a lot of people don't know, man, that is that the life expectancy for slaves was really around 25 years. A lot of people are not aware that most slaves died very early, but they were expendable in the views of the nation.
Where are we now, you think? Black Lives Matter has swept the country. How far have we come? Has the civil and human rights movement made a difference?
Well, I think that we have the ability now to go into any restaurant and a hotel. But our issue is, for the most part, most of African Americans don't have the money to pay for the dinner or to pay for the room. So most of our people are excluded effectively because of the fact we're poor. So I think we've made. I've seen progress for some, but too many remained very locked out, and I won't ever be satisfied until we have some real changes that impact the least of those amongst us.
You served as the Southern Regional Director for the Rainbow Push Coalition. You were Reverend Jesse Jackson's kind of right-hand man. You saw a lot of the early days of the civil rights movement, did you not?
Yes, indeed. As you know, I'm also retired from the United States Air Force, where I spent 21 and a half years. And of course, I followed very closely what was going on in the larger society here in the United States. And as it happened, on the day that Martin Luther King was killed in Memphis, I just returned from Vietnam that very same day.
Wow. How did that make you feel? What did that do to you or for you?
Well, we were just, in a state of shock because, we viewed Dr. King as someone that had been sent amongst us by God to help to liberate us. So our liberator was gone. And of course, I was watching, but I was not aware of the fact that Dr. King had already named Ralph Abernathy, which he said he was his best friend in the world, to be his successor. And of course, I got to know Dr. Abernathy quite well over the years, and he was quite a gentleman in his own right. But from the standpoint of there's only one Martin Luther King, and I don't think we'll probably see another one amongst us. Just as my friend Minister Louis Farrakhan, I think
Right.
you talk about me, and that's kind and generous, but I believe that all the leaders, Minister Farrakhan is a voice of the black people in the world.
What do you think of the role of Rainbow Push, SCLC, NAACP today in light of this youthful Black Lives Matters movement? Do they still matter, or these new kids, a new movement, matter now?
Well, I believe that, we should be, when I say we, I'm talking about people like Charles Steele, who is, I think, doing a great job. And I just left him, as a matter of fact. But we just had the young man that was assassinated down in Brunswick, Georgia. And SCLC has been playing a very leading role in that matter. And because, as you probably know, we went through 4 district attorneys before we were able to settle on the lady that's currently prosecuting the case. Is an African-American woman from Cobb County. But, the district attorney in that particular district, one of the people that was a killer, had worked, just retired from the district. So she had to recuse herself. And then there was a gentleman from Waycross, Georgia, a guy by the name of Barnhill, took over the case. And then there was some association that he had with the police department down in Brunswick, and his mother wanted him to step aside, which he did. And then they named another prosecutor from down South Georgia, and it revealed almost immediately after that he'd just been picked up drunk driving. So they had to remove him, and now they settled on the lady from Cobb County. She's prosecuting the case, and I think she's doing a good job. But what
Dr.
I
Beasley,
think your organization is doing, what CLC is doing, before the Mr. Barnhill, who is over the Waycross district, recused himself, he wrote an exhaustive statement that vindicated the police officers and said there was no arrest warrant justified. And of course, he's viewed the tapes, which we all have seen now, where this young man was tracked down like a deer, and these armed men then shut him down like a dog in the street, and which we're not going to tolerate. And so, what I think SCLC is doing now is want to remove that district attorney from office. He's not fit to serve because clearly in his statement, he vindicated murderers. And so that's what SCLC is doing now. And it's very admirable work in my view. But back to your original question, when we get to the personalities, like Jesse Jackson, Jesse's 78 now and failing health. Charles Steele, I don't know exactly how old he is, but he's certainly somewhat advanced 74. In age. 74, we'll see. And I think that, that we are best suited in supportive roles, and let the young people, as the Bible suggests, that the young have the energy and the strength, and the old have the wisdom, hopefully. And so we should be comfortable in those roles. There should not be any conflict and tension in those roles. So I just think that, to the extent that I don't know who's being groomed for leadership in SCLC, and I'm not really clear about who is being groomed at Rainbow Push. I know that Jesse Jackson's sons are quite engaged, and but I don't know a man of Jesse's stature that, and of course they have a huge headquarters in Chicago, and just to be able to keep the lights on and at the headquarters is quite a feat. But I just think we need to bring, these people that's from Black Lives Matter, bring them closer in, and then not be, envious or whatever, and sharing the spotlight. And I think the best role we play is one that's behind the scene.
Dr. Beasley, I know anytime I'm kindly invited to your home for one of your stately dinners, there are folks from around the world there. I mean, I've never been to Brazil, but I've met Brazilians and Africans. What is it? Are you like an ambassador or something? People just flock to you from around the world. Why is that? Well,
you have to, as John Lewis say, you need to get yourself in the way of trouble. There's trouble, throughout our world. And, when the Europeans had decided, way back in the 14th century, that they were going to conquer the world. And so certain documents and agreements was made that most people don't talk about because they don't know about it. It's not in our school. But, I think that the beginning of our problem, from a standpoint of the land being taken from the native people, all of that grew out of the Vatican and Rome. And when Pope Alexander VI was the Pope at that time, issued, we call a papal bull, and it was in real collusion with all the monarchs of Europe, the kings and queens of Europe, and what the document states. And of course, your audience can just Google Doctrine of Discovery. It'll pop up way back in 1493. So when it pop up, what that document states that the Europeans, whatever you discover, whether it's an island, whether it's a continent, or whatever you discover, if the people are not Christians, then they're savages. And so therefore you're free to take the land. If you can convert them, but not kill them. And so when they stuck the flag in the ground in the United States, the Europeans said, we own it. And then, of course, if we follow a little closer, we would learn that in 1823, the doctrine of discovery was codified within our Constitution, and they used that as justification to put the Native Americans on reservations, which occurred somewhere like around 1830. But this document give them, and it's one thing, of course, as you probably know, I have written the Pope and asked him to rescind the document because I think it's the most damnable edict that have ever been put out. And if we look at the fact what's going on in the North and South Dakota over water rights for the native people to run that pipeline through the water source, and there's always chances of contamination. And, President Obama had stopped it, but when President Trump assumed office, he gave the order full speed ahead, and that is being done under the authority of the doctrine of discovery.
Dr. Beasley, you're also the founder and president of the Joe Beasley Foundation, and you have political ties and economic ties in Zambia, Sao Paulo, Brazil, all across Africa. What is this you're doing, and why is it you get to meet with the heads of countries because of your civil rights activism? Is that what gives you the entree to meet with political powers around the world?
Well, I just think that the least, it's impossible for one to lift themselves up, but we try to let our work speak for us. And oftentimes, if and my answer is because I grew up on a plantation as a sharecropper, I have a special sensitivity to the needs of the poor. And so as I travel, wherever I go in the world, I'm always concerned about trying to change the conditions of the poor. And because we live in a world of plenty, and we have to, really eliminate this notion of greed. And, we take someone like our president that loved to brag about what he's got and so forth. But one thing that he should be very clear on, he's in his 70s now, and you can't take none of it with you. So I just, and mainly what we're trying to do is because in our schools, we don't teach real American history, especially that impact people. And I think that we need to really, and I have some lawyers looking at this now, that, when the Emancipation Proclamation was issued, General Sherman met with 20 preachers, primarily in Savannah, Georgia. And Sherman asked these black preachers, what do you all want? And they said to the man, we want our own country because we've had such long-standing animosities that we think we'd be better suited for our own country. And so General Sherman issued Field Order 15. And I'm preparing to take it into world court as we speak. But because, and what he did, he drew out from the Charleston, South Carolina, all the barrier islands, running all the way down to Florida, and then measuring from the Atlantic Ocean 30 miles inland. It was amounted to some 400,000 acres of land. That was our country that would be run exclusively by us. And, so again, if you Google Field Order 15, it's there. Then, of course, when the vice president, who was Andrew Johnson, moved into the presidency, then he took the land back from us, nullifying Field Order 15. And I think it was illegal. And we are prepared to take it into The Hague to see whether what he done was illegal or not. Now, on the other hand, when we talk about, you want reparations, and what would that look like? What I would suggest that if we would look at the 400,000 acres of land that lies within the boundaries of our country, a city like Charleston, South Carolina would be in there, and Savannah, Georgia would be in there, and Jacksonville, Florida would be in there. And then so much there. And so what we're saying, whatever's in our country right now, that's what the value is. And it would be trillions of dollars.
It happened in Asheville, North Carolina, just this week, just recently. But do you see any hope, realistically, of reparations for Black folks?
Well, if you don't demand it, we will not get it because President Douglas was right that the master, the owner, yields nothing without a demand. But what we've learned that if consistent demand, we get what there's nothing that we haven't really fought for, that we haven't achieved. And that's why I'm disappointed that 50 years after the death of Dr. King, or whatever the number is, instead of us going up to Washington every year to celebrate and then to recite I Have a Dream, we've achieved those things. We need to move on and go global. There's our brothers and sisters who was also enslaved in Brazil and Colombia, etc., are suffering terribly. And then, of course, in the motherland, we're suffering terribly. And so I think we need to turn our attention in that direction. That's what I've tried to do. And quite frankly, if in fact we embrace Mother Africa, and if we would consciously determine that we're going to drive out the people that's exploiting Africa, then our reparations really is in our home. Just take the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And this is not Joe Beasley talking, but the World Bank and everybody concedes that there's more wealth in the Democratic Republic of Congo than all of Europe and the United States combined. And
Wow.
And going forward, so our future and our birthright is in Africa. So I'm not about to give my birthright away, and so that's why I'm not concerned about the Chinese. I think the Chinese is a good leveraging tool for Africa, because the West have shown clearly that they were just there to steal and to kill and to destroy. But now that China's in, I think that at least you got some options. But God help the child that's got its own. And as you know, I've over the last couple of years, I've been to the Congo over four times, and this is a story that needs to be more broadly known. I believe it was 1823, pretty much around the time when this doctrine of discovery, was implemented to the point that they used it to put the native people on the reservations. There was a young man in the Congo in a remote village named Simon Kimbungu, and Jesus Christ came to the Congo and met this gentleman, Simon Kimbungu, and told him to rid the Congo of the false teachers. And so not only did Christ appear to him, but it enabled him to perform every miracle that he performed, including raising the dead. And so when the people in Congo were so discombobulated, the people of Congo and the Belgians, that people, rather than going to work, it was going up to where this miracle worker was, giving people sight to the blind and making crippled legs walk. But of course, Simon Kimbungu had so disrupted what the Belgian was doing until, of course, which is usually the thing that the devil does, is they tried to kill him, but they were not able to kill him. They put him in a barrel even and threw him into the Congo River. But God protected him and saved him. And then, I guess 5 months of preaching, he had surrendered to the Belgium officials, and he died 30 years later, still in prison. But all of those 30 years, he was seen throughout the Congo because God had enabled him, and so the Kimbangas Church now has grown to over 22 million people, and of course they use our same Bible. And one of his prophecies was, Maynard, is that one day that the African Americans, he didn't say anything about the Brazilian American, but the African Americans will come back to the Congo and help them liberate themselves. And so when we go to Congo, and of course there's an open invitation to any African American, if you can get on a plane and fly to Kinshasa, which is the capital, then the church will pick you up and take care of all your expenses during your duration in the Congo.
Wow, that's new information. Finally, Dr. Joe.
Say again?
Say again? No, I didn't hear what
Yeah,
you said.
you need to go with me sometime.
It'd be an honor and a pleasure, sir. It really would be. You have no idea. Let me end this on this note. Just looking at you and knowing you, you have a genteel, grandfatherly kind of demeanor. But in negotiations and civil rights activities, you're tough as nails, aren't you? I mean, you're not sheepish at all. I'm told you're kind of tough.
Well, you have to speak in the language that people understand. And I hate to say it, our oppressors stand guilty as accused, and God had fixed it, a guilty conscience needs no accusing. So if you go with a strength and tell the devil right to his face, you need to repent, which means you need to repair what you've damaged and then go another way. And in that regard, as you know, I guess last week, the King of Belgium finally apologized to the president of the Congo for killing 10 million Congolese during the colonial period. But what we're saying is that apologizing is not enough. You need to repair it. And that's one of the things I'm working on as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Joseph Beasley, the founder of the Joe Beasley Foundation, a gentleman I consider a mentor and a friend. Thank you so much, Dr. Beasley.
Well, my pleasure, Maynard, and it's always a joy to be around with you and your wife.
Thank you. This has been Talk to Me. See you next week.